Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Umaira Said, your course instructor for the research project. And today we are going to start with the lecture number 6. And the topic which I have chosen to discuss today is how to review the literature. As Abira Bete, we have discussed about the research, and even our first assignment is in progress, and maybe you have submitted because today was the last day of submission. And now the lectures which I am going to start from now to onwards will be relevant to the assignment 2. So after the completion of lecture number 8, I will assign you another assignment that will be relevant, that how to collect the data, how would you apply the methodology, and how would you analyze the data or collect the data and then present it to us. The objectives of this research, the topic and lecture is that you have that how would you formulate a research specification. Like it has become a general phenomena. Most of the people say that if you can collect the data by using the different search engines, or you can collect the data by making it out from an outsource, but the original research is very much rare nowadays. uh, the people on the whole globe, they prefer to research themselves by collecting the data themselves. But in the underdeveloped countries, in the third world countries, the people used to copy paste the material from the other person's work, and that is how we are going to we play the blame game, that the research of this country is on the downfall, and that is why on the education sector they are not making the progress. So now today I shall discuss, I shall tell you that how would you review the literature, basically what literature is. So Bira, before going into the deep, if I ask you a very simple question, that what does literature means to you, how would you define this? Written works? Okay. Yes, it is a general perception. A person or non-literary person usually say that the written works. No, bete. Even the film, even the newspaper, anything which is published or displayed, is a part of literature. So literature is a kind of window which helps the person to look into the culture, to look into the era of the primitive ages. Like you don't know that what happened in the 14th century, but when you read the poetry of Geoffrey Chaucer, you came to know, yes, the people who were living in the 14th century, they used to attire like this. Their language was Old English. If you move little back in the 10th century or in the 7th century, how would you differentiate that the women in the 7th century were entirely different from the women in the postmodern era? Because the literature that was written in that era was relevant to the social behaviors and the attitudes of people living in that age. But now, in the present age, the people attitudes had been 90 degrees changed. So this is how the literature varies with the ages, and it helps. Like our Holy Quran, how Holy Quran is a part of literature. How? Because by Holy Quran we came to know about 1,24,000 prophets. We came to know about our holy prophet, and it is the Holy Quran that become a window to let us know about the stories and about the antidotes of the holy prophets. Okay ji. So now moving towards that how to review the literature. Okay, but in research, the reviewing of literature is very important. You cannot even take a single step without knowing that if you are taking this topic, is any person in any part of the world completed? If you come to know, suppose you choose a topic in the previous lectures that you would discuss about the media intrusion or the role of media in the personality development. Suppose this is your topic. Maybe I have done this topic in 2015. So it means that this topic gonna not new for you. You would select my research paper, you will read that in which dimension I have completed my work, and that after reading it out, you will find that Umaira Saeed completed this work, but still a gap is left here. So you will then shift your dimensions to another perspective and complete your research paper, but you will quote a reference of my research paper that in 2015 some woman, Miss Umaira Said, done the research on the same topic, I am taking a little help from it, but my dimension and perspective is little different from Umaira said. So this is how you will use to take references from the other people work to make your research work more strengthened. Point number two, it is an account of what is already known about a particular phenomena. So now I think now you have understood that actually it is about to know that what actually have been discussed previously and now in which dimensions you will discuss this topic. The point number three, the main purpose of literature review is to convey to the readers about the work already done. Now, Veera, look at this point. The main purpose is just to let the readers know that this work has already been done, but the ideas that have been already established on a particular topic of research. It means that this topic is researchable because there are multiple gaps which still needs to be filled by the different researchers. Maybe Abira, when you complete your research, another researcher from UK, they select the same topic, but they say that Abira's research paper had a little gap, so I would fill up that gap with my research. Literature review is a laborious task. Yes, this is most important point. It is not easy to review the literature. I was studying a research that on daily basis, 5,000 research papers published around the globe. It means that the people are continuously and persistently working and researching on the different aspects of a work. So what you would do in your research work will not new thing. What you would do is just a little contribution from your side. It will just a drop of water in the ocean of research. So if the research process is successful, it means that you are contributing from your side. That will not be new, but it will be something additional in already done work. What is review? H.M. Cooper in 1988 defined a review that a literature review uses as its database reports of primary and original scholarship and does not report new primary scholarship itself. Review of literature means that you have to quote what has been done previously, not which will happen in the future. The primary reports used in the literature may be verbal, but in the vast majority of cases, reports are written documents. You cannot review literature orally or verbally. Like when you are going to report something, it is mandatory to write something. You cannot orally say that I have read 10 research papers, Mr. Cooper, Mr. Jacob, these men said these words. Everything must be black and white. These types of scholarships may be empirical, theoretical, critical, analytical, or methodological in nature. It means that whatever the research you are choosing, the document must be empirical, means that that must be the prototype of it. Theoretical, it must be written, it can be a critical review or it can be an analytical type of research. Second, a literature review seeks to describe, summarize, evaluate, clarify, or integrate the content of primary report. So literature review can be a kind of summary of something. It can be evaluation of some data. It can be the clarification of already set statement, or you can integrate the research of one person with the research of another research scholar to bring something new for the readers. So let it continued by the Queensland University in 1998. But according to them, a literature review is an evaluation report of information found in the literature related to the selected area of study. The review describes, summarizes, evaluates, or clarifies this literature. It is also a theoretical base for the research. It means that the research is primarily based on the review of literature. As previously, I told you that currently I am doing a research on the novel of Kasra Shiraz, Holy Woman. And what is my narrow down of my studies, that this novel is about the women, is about the marrying of women with the Holy Quran. This is about the restriction of women, the marginalization of women. 25 characters are included in the novel, but what I choose, I just took out the character, the main protagonist, and and then objectify the particular character. Like in my research, I will not include the rest of character, but only the Zari Bano, the main protagonist or the heroine of the drama. I will choose that, and my research will revolve around the single woman, that is the Zari Bano. I will not discuss or touch another person or other person discussed in the novel. It means that my theory and my delimitation of study will help me to review that how the women have been seen by the uh, by uh, by the Toni Morrison, how the women have been seen by the Maya Angelou, how the women have been seen by the black writers. But when being a Muslim and being a research scholar from the third world country, how do I see this novel from the feministic perspective? So that is how we do a literature review. As number two, A&M in 2000 said the literature review is a body of text that aims to review the critical point of knowledge. Suppose, Veera, when you will submit your research report to me, I will find out that which are the main aspects on which Abira have completed her research. Suppose if your research will be upon the clinical research or the about the slogan which has been used around the globe for the women or the protection of the women rights, I will find out that which quotations you use, which adjectives you use, which grammar, which aspects of the grammars you have used in making your women's slogan more pompous. In the University of Toronto in 2001, a literature review is an account of what has been already established. So it means the literature review is about what has been published previously, and now this particular research topic by accredited scholars and researchers were used to give the accreditations to the researchers which already have done this topic. Now, beta, importance of literature review. Now, what is the importance of literature review? Why it is important to review the literature for a research paper? Now, these points are very important. Even I can take only these points, or you can establish your assignments on these points. Identification of research problem or the development of the refinement of research questions are very important. While research is based, the scientific research based on the hypothesis and the other literary works like the literature, it depends upon the uh, upon knowing about the literature which have been done. So generation of useful research questions and the projects are very important for the disciples, for the different disciplines. Orientation to what is known or not known about an area of inquiry to ascertain, and the determination of any gaps. So this point is very important, bete. The determination of any gaps. As I told you in my 10 minutes before, that if you are doing research on any topics, if you find that there are still a gap which can be filled, so you can take this topic, because literature is unbounded, unbridled, and uncontrolled. So you cannot say that if you have taken this dimension, even you can take the same dimension by from the different perspectives. So the world used to see the things from the 3D views, but the literary eye can see the things from the 5 views. So you can have the 5 view to elaborate the description of a thing. Discovery of unanswered questions. So there are so many questions which are still unanswered and unexplored. So you can do a research or review the literature to answer those questions on a different subjects. Determination of a need to replicate or prior study in different study settings. But there is a black hole, and this black hole has this much gravity that it takes you to another world. So this black hole was initialized and determined by one of the top-notch literary scholar. But it doesn't mean that with the death of that person, your research ends here. You can move forward and you can bring more and more research on it. Now it depends that where the gaps still left. We can do the literature review for the identification of relevant theoretical or conceptual framework of research problems. Like if there are various research problems, we can apply the different frameworks on it. We can identify the development of new or refined clinical interventions, like you are inclined more towards psychology. So you can apply the different clinical interventions to find out the different results on the same person by applying the same theoretical references. Description of the strength and the weaknesses and the methods of inquiry. This literature review can help you a lot for the development of hypotheses. It also helps in planning the methodology of a present research study. It also helps in development of research instruments. If your research instruments are varying from the other research scholar, so you can use different research methodologies to make your research entirely different from the other fellows. Identification of the suitable designs and the data collection. If someone is using the 5 Ricket models, so you can take questions from the close-ended question and make your research different on the same topic from your fellow. What is the purpose of literature review? Like I am speaking a lot, blah, blah, blah about the literature review, importance of the literature review. But what is the purpose of this literature review? Better, the purpose of literature review is to convey the reader previous knowledge and facts established on the topic and their strengths and the weakness. As we have discussed this previously, that literature review is not about reading the articles, reading the essays, or reading the more and more research papers. It is about to know about the knowledge and the facts on that topic, and how could you make your research more strengthened and and delete all the weaknesses from it by reading those research papers. The literature review also allows the readers to update with the state of research in a field and contradicts that may exist with the challenges. Like nowadays, the many of the third world countries in the world, they are facing the many economical, inflation problems, the political and the social issues. So if you highlight one of the political or the social issues, you can take the references of America or the UK, you can take reference from the Africa. If you are working on the colonialism, so you can take an example of the New Zealand, you can take an example of the UK and USA. Then that is how you can give a references that once the UK made the colonies in the subcontinent, that is how the subcontinents put forward these suggestions that they take their freedom. So the countries who are still living in an age of colonialism by applying the same methodology. So this is how the research continues. Research also helps to investigate tools and improve research methodology. Research also helps us to identify the problems which can be faced by the previous researchers. And this research can also help to enhance our research issues, knowledge about the topic. Like suppose the literature review also help you to write about about your contribution and understanding of the subject. Why literature review is important? The purpose of literature review is just to describe a relationship of study with the different research studies in the consideration. Like I have a research paper on the mass communication, the role of media. Bete, I have research paper on the education, that how education can be improved for the toddlers or for the new beginners. I have a research paper on the feminism. I have a research paper on using of the developing imageries by reading a simplest novel. So it means that the research does not end. You cannot confine yourself to a one point. So there are the variety of ways in which you can take your research. Research is also important because by the help of this, we can identify new ways to interpret and shed light on the gaps in the previous research. This research is also important to contradictor on the previous studies. This research is also important to prevent the duplication of an effort. Suppose, Abira, if you and your sister are doing research on the same topic, so there will be no duplication because the methodology you are applying on the same topic will be entirely different from your sister. So that is how literature review and research have a variety of ways to avoid the duplication. You can point a way forward for further research. So your research may open the horizons for the other researchers, see what has and has been investigated. So research tells us that what has happened, and the literature tells us that what may happen. Research is also important, Bete, to develop general explanation for observed variations in different behaviors or phenomena. As you are more inclined towards the psychology of a patient, so you can bring changes in the behavior or the phenomena by applying different methodologies. You can identify your potential relationship between the concept and the researchable hypothesis. But the most important thing is that your research should be applicable and bring some positive change in the society. Suppose if you are doing a research on a topic that will not be valuable for the people, it means that is waste. But if you are doing a research that can be valuable in the upcoming time, that will be much appreciated. This research will also help to define and measure the key concepts. Gayatri Sipak was the most acclaimed Indian author. She came up with the new concept of subalterns. Subalterns means the people who are muted, who are voiceless. She was of a point that the women and the men both are subalterns. If one is marginalized, if one is considered to be others. Like among the white people, the blacks were considered muted and others. They think that they are dependent and they don't have any voice. Even in the third world countries, the women play the role of muted and the voiceless. They are usually been marginalized. So by reviewing of the literature, you can bring out the new concept. The previous day, I was reading a novel that was The Social Butterfly. It was a novel from the Moni Mohsen. And she said that now the English has been bastardized by the using of the Urdu words. We usually do not speak Urdu completely. We include many English words in my Urdu language. So that is how the Urdu language and the English language both has been corrupted by the amalgamation of the different English and the Urdu words in this language. We can develop the different research projects by using the alternative approaches. We can discover that how a research project is related to the work of others. Like if my research work may be relevant to yours, we can place one's original work. Like if you like my work, you can quote reference, you can take the reference from my research work to make your research work more authentic. What are the better sources of literature review? There are the variety of resources. One is called the primary resources and others are called the secondary resources. What are the primary sources, bete? The primary sources are the research reports which are available on the Google Scholar. It is the description of the studies. It can be books. It can be newspaper. A primary source is written by a person who developed the theory or conducted the research. If I am applying the theoretical framework of Sigmund Freud, who is the most acclaimed psychologist, it means that his work will be the primary work. But if you are quoting his work and I am taking the help from your research paper, then your work will be the secondary source for me, but the original work's reference will be the primary source. So here is an example. Example of the primary sources, an original qualitative on patient experience in the ICU. Like if you are making the qualitative research of a patient in an ICU, directly approaching to the patient, it means that you are taking help from as a primary source. But if I am taking help from the data collected by you, that will be the secondary source. The secondary source research paper means that the document's description of studies prepared by someone other than the original researcher. Now you are understanding that if I am taking your data, instead of going into the hospital and collecting data myself, then your data will be the primary source because you collected yourself. But when I am taking help from your work, that will be the secondary source. They are written by the people other than the individuals who developed the theory or conducted the research. The secondary sources may be used when primary sources are not available. So it depends upon the delimitation, that how the people usually delimit and the limited their approaches, and that is why they depend upon the other person's work. The main sources from where the literature can be searched are, look at this wheel. You can take the literature and you can take the help from the different magazines, the newspaper, from the electronic database, from the news, from the books, from the journals, from the conference papers, from the workshop, from the thesis, from the encyclopedia, and from the different kinds of the research reports. What are the electronic resources? Now the word has been squeezed into the computer. You can take help from the computer, like you can go to the different websites or the search engines from where you can collect the data. And this kind of the researchers, however, have a variety of reasons because they provide the desired references. Number 2 is the electronic literature search. It is also helpful, but most of the research scholars do not, and most of the supervisors do not accept the references which usually be taken from the electronic sources because they are not reliable. We do not get their original work. That is why they do not allow us to use the electronic sources. We can take different search engines like Yahoo, from the Google, from the web crawler, Alta, Vista, or Excite. The most relevant nursing database are the NAHAL Cumulative Index of Nursing and Allied Health Literature. So, with the variety of the subjects, your literature can be collected from the different search engines. Like for my literature subject, I use the dependent upon the Google Scholars. So it is about the research on the nursing. So it is all from my side today, in which I have discussed that how you can take what is literature, importance of literature, purpose of literature review, and how which sources from where you can collect the data. If you have any questions relevant to the review of literature, you can ask the question relevant to that. Okay, no problem. You can submit your assignment tomorrow. But do you have any question relevant to the literature review? No questions. Okay, Abira. So you have a task today. You will bring the literature reviews, like 5 literature reviews about the global warming. Global warming is your topic, and you will bring the 5 literature review in the next lecture of research project. I will first check, and later on I shall start the next topic. How would you collect the data? You can, as I told you that this lecture, you will collect the data from the different search engines or from the different secondary sources, like from the magazines, and you will tell me that how different authors and how different channels are discussing or elaborating the global warming worldwide. Yes, you have to come up. Okay, ji, inshallah, see you in the next lecture.